Hello everyone and welcome back to Backlog Banter. My name is Tucker Hazell and this is Dev Dive, a show where I get a chance to talk to interesting game developers about their games. And today I am joined by two different people that worked on the game Cache Cleaner Simulator. And we're here to dive into it. We have Leonid Gorbachev from Mind Control Games, the director and founder of that studio. And we have Tucker Dean, the COO of Forklift Interactive, who is the publisher of Cache Cleaner Simulator. So we've got both sides of the production here to talk about how the game got made and the story behind it, the teams behind it. And first, I want to start by introducing each of you and talking about what your job is in the games industry so people get a sense of where you're coming from for this conversation. Leonid, let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Leonid. I'm making video games about 15, 16 years. So we started with my friend. We made some board games, but they have a dream to making one. And we used to work in a small IT company in an office in university. And it was boring job making schedule applications. Never mind. So yeah, and finally we got a very stupid, a very fun game at the same time. It calls Bridges, because you can rotate bridges on an island in the skies, and it was like a steampunk thing. And people like it, but it was very controversial for hours maybe. So I enjoyed to make this game a lot, and I understood that this is my thing for sure. And since 2010, I started developing games in the companies like St. Petersburg one Nival, which making I was making Blitzkrieg 3 and some others. And it was a long way before from game designer positions then to technical guy, CTO, then to the kind of producer or director of the studio. And we have a huge history. And one of the most interesting moment was a moment when we created the Cartel Tycoon. It was our last game. And yeah, we finished it couple years ago, but we always making different genres. My team, I mean, we are working together for 8 years. It's great to work with people you work so long because you understand each other very well, and every question is easy to talk about. And we used to make very different genres. Like we used to make multiplayer shooter, third party one. We made a strategy game, and now we made a simulator game first in our life. So we don't mind about gender much, more about experience.
Sure, yeah. And Tucker, tell me about Forklift Interactive, your company for publishing games and your history in the games industry.
Sure. Well, I'll start with my history. I've been in games since 2008, and almost all of that time has been in publishing. So for many years, I worked for Adult Swim Games, which was part of the Adult Swim television network, and that's where I got started. And they started out as a Flash games publisher, and eventually grew into PC and console and mobile by the end of their run. When I was starting Forklift with my co-founder Andre, we wanted to start a business that could be the rest of our career, a publishing business that we could build and grow and learn from the experience both of us had previously. So we decided to pick like a very clear market focus for deep systems driven games. And part of that is because those are the games that we love. And part of it is because they are, strong performers among gamers. They have really long play times, and there's lots of reasons why they are a successful space. But most of all, because we're going to spend the rest of our career working on these things, and we want them to be stuff that we really love and are passionate about and can speak to developers about with real expertise. So those were, the really simple ideas behind starting Forklift, and that was really kicked off in 2023. So it's been 2 years now of building the company slowly. Cache Cleaner is our third launch. Mm-hmm. Has really taken off, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's what you want to see.
Yeah. Very excited. But Cache Cleaner obviously is a simulator, but for us, deep systems games also means management,
Yeah.
strategy, tactics, anything that's driven by those deep systems and generally has really long play times. It's kind of our wheelhouse. So
Yeah.
that's that's what got us here, and those are the kind of games we look for going forward also.
Sure, yeah. And I like that you mentioned it's the kind of games that you love. And that's sort of another icebreaker I wanted to do here at the top is talk about the games that inspired you to get involved with video games. We'll go back to you, Leonid, about the games that you remember playing when you were younger that was like, man, I really think that I can do this and I want to do this.
To be honest, I never dreamed about it because I was
Okay,
thinking that I'm not too good for that.
sure.
I was thinking, wow, they're making video game. No, I'm too stupid to make it. It's no chance,
Yeah,
no
yeah, yeah.
chance. But the real game was inspired me in a way of approach to game design. A lot was Tropica. I used to play in Tropica and Tropica 2 like a lot. I spent a lot of time on this. It was easy mode, but still I like it because it
Yeah,
was a great combination of sound, a visual design, theme, and they didn't make just a regular building simulator. They were thinking what it could be on an island, how it should be, what problems you will face with, not like only about building, but about politics as well, and the
yeah.
island and the
Hmm.
global politics, and etc. etc. And I was so inspired with this game whole time. Think about this game and know I want to play it again because I don't know why. Just I
Yeah,
like it.
sure.
And yeah, this is the first game I can remember, and maybe the last one. Of course, I spend a lot of time on some other shitty games and good games, but maybe
Sure.
Kazakhs as well. But no, Tropica is my first love.
Yeah. And Tucker, what about you? Any games that you remember really connecting to that was like, I want to be in this industry?
Yeah, well, I also like kind of fell into the industry because I was a film major and I
Oh, okay.
thought that
Me
I was
too.
going to move to Hollywood. Nice. Yes, so you understand the story I'm about to tell intimately. I was like going to move to Hollywood and do something out there, and by the time I was finishing up school, it was like the last internship that I was looking for. I was like, I don't know that I really want to move to LA. So I
Sure.
started looking for other opportunities to intern, and I found an internship with Cartoon Network in Atlanta, which is also
Hmm.
where I'm from, working on a game as part of their games team at Cartoon. And that felt like a good fit because I'd always been a gamer and was passionate about it, but had never considered like pursuing that professionally. And then
Interesting. Sure.
that changed the entire trajectory of my career basically.
Yeah.
But as a kid, I mean, I was primarily a PC gamer because I didn't own a console until I was like in 5th or 6th grade. I remember Lemmings was a really big one when I was a
Yeah.
kid.
Mhm.
Like just hundreds of hours banging my head against the puzzles in that game.
There's a systems game.
Yeah, truly. And I also developed at a fairly young age like a real interest in the old ASCII roguelikes like
Oh,
NetHack
interesting.
and
Yeah.
ADOM. I've always thought that those games were incredible. And in the last, 5 to 10 years, there's been this explosion of bringing those roguelike features into all different kinds of games, action games, and so on. And that has been an amazing like change in the industry to be around for, because for me it was always like my private kind of secret obsession, and now it's gone like totally mainstream.
Yeah. What we're talking about today is a simulator game. And this is my first time doing a interview with a team that's made a simulator game, but the simulator genre is really a type of game mindset that people get into. A game with simulator at the end doesn't necessarily reflect the type of gameplay that you're going to be doing. It's going to be the way that you're approaching playing the game and getting really deep into it and being in the nitty gritty of it. And so let's talk about simulator games as a genre and what makes it appeal to you. Leonid, you mentioned that genre is not the main thing that you gear towards, but you have to be excited to make a game in a genre if you're going to end up making it. And so let's talk about what appeals to you about simulator games. And in your mind, what is a simulator game and how does Cash Cleaner fit into that?
To be honest, simulator games is almost every game. This is a very very bad word to describe it, and we were talking with our team about the names of the genre, like a lot. Like and every
Yeah,
time our programmer Ivan he will say, "Well, people just messed up simulator word. They use it too much, and now it means not
yeah,
almost nothing." But
yeah,
in our case, and for most people who are about games, who understand something about games at least, they, if you say simulator, well, they thinking about something like, I don't know, train driver simulator or anything
yeah,
like
sure.
that.
Yeah, Euro Truck Simulator, something like that.
Or truck simulator and say, are you that boring guy who like teaching and playing truck all night? They say, yeah, I am. It helps me to relax, you know. You
Yeah,
turn off good music and just going from Seattle, I don't know, to Atlanta and etc. Most funny thing I like about this genre that every time you say, well, we are talking about this theme, you can create controls and mood from scratch. You should do it from scratch because you making the experience, and experience is a major point. When you're talking about RTS genre, we say, well, you need a mouse to play nice with it. You need
yeah,
to have a square to select every unit, and it's like you need it. But in simulator genre, you can do anything, and it's fine. Especially
yeah,
Space Track Simulator, they made these crazy controls, and you think, yeah, it should be like that exactly. So let's track a space track. Why not? Well, that's why it's very open-minded genre and a very nice one in this way. So I like it.
yeah, yeah. And Tucker, is the simulator genre one that appeals to you that you play yourself? And what do you think of when you think of a simulator game?
I think the distinction is about like the level of intensity, kind of. So like obviously there's an element of fantasy to almost all video game playing. And like in the Souls game, when you kill a boss, you feel like a god. But you also put a lot of work in to get to that moment, right?
Hmm.
And a simulator game has a very different level of intensity. It's more like you put time in to achieve your goals.
Okay,
The
yeah,
process of building something up, managing, in the case of Cash Cleaner Simulator, a lot of money that has to be processed and dealt with and handled in a certain way, and then achieving your goal, whatever that is, right? So I think there's just the fantasy of sim games is that you have these achievable goals that you can work towards slowly at your own pace in like a much more relaxed way. It's just a very different vibe that still ultimately gives you payoff. And as somebody who is, a father and has a lot of stuff going on, like the intensity of action games, as much as I still love them, is not always the right fit for
yeah, sure.
the time that I have to spend playing games. So I think there's a real appeal there for me. And then, of course, as a businessman too, we just look at games that do really well in the market, and particularly the way players talk about them and what they love about them. And so we had wanted to try to find a good sim for a while when this came together.
Yeah, okay, sure. Leo, I like what you said about simulators being a open-minded genre, and you're making it really from scratch because you have no real basis for what, specifically in this case, Cash Cleaner Simulator has to be, because there's not another Cash Cleaner Simulator. You guys are the first ones to do it, and so let's talk about what the basis of this game was. Do you remember the first time you and your team came together to discuss making this game? What was the core of that idea that turned into that bigger project?
I remember that it's not my idea. It's idea of our game designer Margarita Rita. When we made a cartel game, Cartel Tycoon, we had a gameplay that you washing money for dirty business. Yeah, so you had a building, and she just talked about this idea that this specific action could be point of whole game. So what about if you're sitting in a place where you have a lot of money? Like that much money that you can never have in your life, ever, ever, ever. This fantasy pushed us to the game, so we understood how it should work. Firstly, of course, we were thinking, well, it should be VR game when you just can do the things, and then we think, no, we want to make it very popular. It's very hard to work with VR. It's not
Yeah,
cheap
sure.
to create the VR game, and at the same time, it's not that profitable. But if you do that, it's very hard to push your made this mechanics back to PC controls or else.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So we say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, not VR from the very beginning. So we need the physics because it's fun when it all goes with
Yeah.
physics. And we did R&D maybe for 7 months of only making this physical money falling
Yeah, yeah,
pails
yeah.
like falling money like a garbage around and etc
Yeah.
etc. We were only thinking, then we were thinking, well, if it's fun and if it's about fun, we should make some mechanics people are always thinking they want to do with money but they can't, like burning them, shooting from the past pistol with the money, what
Yeah.
else, counting them, like these
Yeah.
details. So
Or the dryer, which is just a big money tornado.
put it in, like a
Yeah.
tornado, in a dryer. Put it in a washing machine because you can. And what else? So it was all part of R&D. We tried to understand what the game could be about. What we understood that it should be, and it could be very satisfying things. And the other step to make this satisfying, this fun, was to hire guys who are good in the sounds, and
Oh,
they
sure.
made the sound of money you can hear in the game. This is real money, but they are frozen. That's why they sound like this.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. They
they -1 degree money, which is scratch
Wow,
about.
okay.
Yes,
Huh.
yeah, yeah. So, in combining experience of manipulating with money with the sounds of make it more excited and make it relaxable and fun, so people can calm down and do the things and feel like it's ASMR experience.
And how long did the project take from that first time you were talking about making a big money simulator to now when it released in May 2025?
Well, it's had a very long story because when you're doing R&D, you never know when you finish and where you should finish R&D. So
Mm.
uh, we say, well, this is fun experience, but if we can make game which is fun with it, or it's just a toy you can just play but doesn't feels like a game. So it was a big questions how to make a real game. It was a lot of options, so we spent a bit of time to discuss it. So I remember we had a year, 7 months of R&D, or maybe 8, then a year, then 6 months of digitalization of game design and rewriting code to make it work. Then we have a long pause because of some other issues, and then we made whole game maybe in 8 months. We
Okay.
just sit and finish it to the very end. And we had a lot of strange and very expensive in the meaning of R&D ideas, but every time we ask ourselves, well, if it's good for money experience, and if it's not, we just removed it. So
Yeah, sure.
basically, you have extract of this game, not like maybe full money cash cleaner washing anyway game, but extract of money enjoying game.
So now we know where the game came from in terms of the concept, but I am curious how the two of your teams came together to make this the project that it ended up becoming. Tucker, let's start with you. Forklift Interactive, you guys are looking for a simulator game. How did you meet up with My Control Games to discover this game, and why did you choose that one to end up publishing?
So I met Leonid for the first time. I think, Leo, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was at Gamescom in 2023. and you were in town, and we met through Andre, and then also had a dinner together at the same event. At the time, though, I didn't even know what Mind Control was working on. My co-founder Andre knows Leonid previously, and just made the introduction at Gamescom and also at dinner. I was at a dinner with a bunch of Russian speakers, and Leonid was one of the only other people there who spoke English. So
Okay.
that was nice. Anyway, then fast forward like a full year, and we met up again at Gamescom 2024, and that's when we started talking about the project.
Oh, okay. So quite recently, that's what, 8 months ago, a little less?
Yeah. So like around the time they started kind of pushing from R&D into like full blown push for release was also when we got involved. So we were helping them find funding, and also we're discussing like, hey, can we be a part of this? It took a little bit of thinking on both ends, and eventually we made the decision to go for it. I think for us, we had a couple of thoughts. Like, Leonid, what you just said like made me think about this. One of the things that we do is study markets and try and figure out like why this game blew up and this one didn't, right? And there are a lot of sims, and many of the popular sims cover something that is a often mundane experience that's very familiar to people. So like gas station simulator, sure, most of us have never worked in a gas station maybe, but everybody like knows what a gas station is, knows what you do there and what you can buy there and things like that. Power wash simulator, same thing, it's a tool like that you've seen or used yourself. So Cash Cleaner was like, we were a little curious if this was a risk, because it's like a money laundering game, and that's not a relatable experience.
Yeah, or at least you won't admit if it's relatable.
Yeah, right. But Leonid, when you were just talking about like trying to get all the money right, the sort of feeling of it made me realize, of course, it's super relatable, because everybody pays for stuff. Everybody knows the feeling of counting out the bills and handing them over, and everybody knows the feeling of how exciting it would be to be literally buried under piles of money, right? So in fact, it's a kind of a super relatable fantasy. But those were the conversations we were having. But what ultimately I think pushed us over the edge into really wanting to be a part of it was the fact that it was funny. Like, the whole concept just hinges on a bit of a joke, and the kind of winkness of like, you're cleaning cash. You're not laundering money, you're cleaning cash.
Yes, literally, in this sense. You put it in an actual washing machine so that it's not covered in mud, and then you dry it off so it's not wet, and then you can give it back to people.
Yep. And like, I came from Adult Swim, which was a humor brand, and fundamentally like humor in media really speaks to me. I just have a lot of experience looking at those kinds of games, and I just felt like it was a really great fit, and really wanted to be a part of it. So ultimately, we did the back and forth of figuring out how the deal would work and so on, but it came together and we got started in late 2024.
Sure, yeah. And I like what you said about the concept of being inherently funny, and especially I think the way you executed on it, Leonid, you and your team, does have an edge of humor to it. You're talking with these characters on text. You have a disembodied voice that's telling you sort of weird things. There's little jokes hidden in the environment. And let's talk about the comedy of the game, because that's something that's pretty rare, I think, for simulator games, is they're usually pretty straight-laced. They're pretty straightforward, focused on recreating reality, but Cash Cleaner Simulator does not do that. You guys want to have fun with it. You want it to be ridiculous. The characters are saying funny things, so why did you choose to have some humor in it?
It just worked like this way. I don't know. Before that, we used to work with Carousel Tycoon, and we were practicing on creating dialogues and creating some small stories and big stories as well. But it wasn't that space to joke about. But if you say we don't not serious games and the money is the main serious thing and physical money is the only serious thing about it, well, it works. And thanks, Rita, she had a great sense of humor. We like her a lot, and we found a great actress who made this nice Betty voice, and altogether it just worked. At the same time, as a studio director who counting money, real one, I was, oh my god, we spent too much time on this story. It was so much time. Maybe we should make more about system, but to be honest, after some stages, after some milestones, I understood. So yeah, it works, but it doesn't push you that much. So if you like this humor, you will like it. And I was afraid maybe people wouldn't like this cartoonish scene, and there would be a
Sure.
lot. But no,
Hmm.
no, it works for them, and I was so happy about that. But after every next questionnaire we made, I saw that they're fine with that. That it not that much humor, but enough to that. So basically, I want to say thank you, Rita, for this nice story and for this sense of humor. That's why we love it, working with it. Yeah, but decision to make it that funny was hard to say, to be honest, for me.
Sure. So, how late in the development, or when in the development, did the humor come to be a part of it in the story? Did you initially start the game as a more of a serious project, more traditional simulator, like recreating reality thing?
Yeah, we started like real, but then we maybe in a day we created this game loop and understood how it should work, and we were inspired with such art the game, which is very fun but not that popular. Maybe Tucker, do you know such art?
Yeah, it's kind of a send up of like the art world
Okay.
through a simulator game in which you can create art, and it's really clever. Yeah, when I saw that one, I was like, God, I wish that had been my idea. Like those are always my favorite. The ones you're jealous of. Uh,
Yeah, we are very inspired with such art as well. In the meaning of creating space, in the meaning of game loop, and this part was obvious at some
Hmm.
point. Was just this is the part of generative control, and what should be the story? And we didn't know. We understood that it
Hmm.
should be about gangs and about
Yeah.
maybe some we need some characters to make it feels alive. Because we
Hmm.
don't have money to make a lot of locations, so we should
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
this world feels alive and real by this communicator things and calls. And it was like a challenge to us. We just feel like it should work, and finally it worked. And someone told us that it feels like Bioshock, and it's, oh my god, it's the best compliment I ever had.
Yeah.
Because talking heads by phone, it's absolutely Bioshock style. But it because we didn't have much money to make
Yeah.
this world alive, and we have time to make it
Yeah.
alive. Yeah. In the very end, we understood what story should be, and we finished the story maybe in April. And
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
we understood that this should be like this, and it wasn't easy.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying about having to make a decision with based on the scope of your team and the capital that you have to work with. Of where are you going to put the effort? Is it going to be story? Is it going to be mechanics? And you have to, especially as studio head, you have to make those decisions. And Tucker, I'm curious on the forklift side, when you guys got involved. Were there any sort of decisions on that level of like where resources should be allocated or where effort should be put that you guys were a part of making sure that the game turned out the way you wanted?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, for us, it differs by project, but obviously, like for any publisher, marketing is a big focus. For Forklift specifically, we also put a really big emphasis on playtesting. In fact, Mind Control had already done playtesting of their own and kind of had a process for it, but many developers don't. So, uh, taking on the playtesting kind of management, finding players and gathering feedback and so on is one of the things that we do that many developers may not feel like they have the bandwidth for on their own.
Yeah.
This game was so fun to playtest because the results from all the playtests were like amazing. Plenty of things to fix and improve and whatever else, but the biggest thing that emerged was just how sticky the game was.
Sure.
The playtimes were crazy long, so we really loved going out and gathering that info because the results were always positive, which was great.
Yeah.
On the marketing side, for us, it comes down to where exactly we put our dollars. Is it paid ads? Is it social media? Is it content creators?
So what worked best for Cache Cleaner?
Well, this was what was so interesting about Cache Cleaner. Like, it kind of defied a lot of our assumptions. We saw from the playtests, when I say like it was incredibly sticky, I mean it was like an order of magnitude more engaging than anything else I've measured in a playtest in like 10 years.
Sure.
Like it was incredibly powerful. Anybody who played it for 5+ hours. And this is in the stage when there's like 90 minutes of demo content. And people were just like continuing to play even after the demo was over. But it actually proved rather challenging to get good traction on things like paid ads, which we have a lot of experience with. And even sometimes with content creators who, like, I thought that, this would be a great fit, but they would pass on it or whatever.
Yeah.
So ultimately for us, we realized that like the key was to sell the joke, like to get it in front of people and like show the humor of it and then let them like come to us basically. So I think we ended up putting a lot of energy into the trailers for the game, going through multiple rewrites and a lot of iteration to make sure that we were showing off the features in a way where you could see really how the game worked, but also just trying to sell the humor of it. And of course, for that, I have Mind Control to thank, like, for giving us such amazing material to work with. I think we made some really cool stuff, but our whole goal was just to like get it in front of them in an interesting way. Heading into launch, if we could get eyes on the game, it would draw people in. And so for us, it was just a matter of trying to be funny and then counting on Steam players to recognize that and want to check it out. And then I knew after that, if they played it, they would love it, So that was kind of our approach.
Yeah, Forklift delivered like 4 or 3 very creative, very different trailers, and it was very fun. And we didn't touch it like completely, and it liked it a lot.
Yeah, Tucker mentioned the stickiness of the game and the ways that people get really involved with the systems of the game, as you mentioned, deep systems. And so I'm curious, on the development side, what sort of habits did you see players form when they were working their way through the game that might have surprised you? You're like, oh, I didn't expect players to really get into this area of the game or organizing things in this way. Was there anything interesting you learned watching people play the game that the team didn't anticipate would happen?
Well, the good thing about sandbox game, and we can call Cache Cleaner this way because it's physical sandbox in a many way, that people play very different, and you never guess what they will do until you watch like 100 minutes, it's hours of video. Yeah, you never guess. So the game design approach in this way is always, you ask yourself, well, if it's possible in that game, and you should say yes always. And it's make development very hard because your as much system you have, as much connections you have, the more unpredictable things. But if you say to the player every time, yes, you can, don't worry about it, you can do that. You can put it in a oven and just burn it out, and never mind, you can find more money later. Well, this is the main thing about it. So, and when you are watching, what I realized, that everyone wants to escape. Never end. Everyone wants to escape. Never, because it's nature of humanity to escape from the room anyhow. And we were thinking, well, we can make it like escape room game inside, But we didn't have time for that because, to make an escape game, you need a lot of new mechanics, a bit of story, clues, puzzles, and for one people it would be too easy, for other people it would be too hard, and none of them would be happy. They will say, "Well, it's so stupid. I never understood that." And we put some pieces of this gameplay, and we get some negative reviews about that. So we tell ourselves, well, it's not escape room game, but if they find a way to escape, we will give them some gifts anyhow, and that's it. So never mind what people do. You should just say them, "You're great in that. You're great in everything you do. If you count in money, you're great in that. If you pass on too much money, you're great in that. If you escape, wow, you are magnificent guy." So be a very good, proud mom every time they do anything.
Interesting. Yeah.
So this is the point to make this funnier. And if you thinking, well, he shouldn't do that because it's not allowed by, I don't know, by the story, etc. Well, no, you should allow, and you should say, oh, you're so great in that. You collect all kind of money and spend 140 hours in that. Why not? Why not? It's your.
And with the game as flexible as Cash Cleaner Simulator, where people can approach it from the way they want to, what sort of audience, and we'll shift it back to you, Tucker, what sort of audience did you think that you'd be marketing this game towards? Was it the more hardcore simulator type people that like to spend a ton of time into it? Or did you, maybe with the trailers, lean more into the comedy angle of it? Or did you try to cast your net wide to see who you can grab?
Yeah, that's a great question. We weren't sure at the beginning. I think typically Sims have a bit of a broader appeal, like a more casual appeal, which I don't think. That's why I said broad. Like it's not. It's not like hardcore players don't like these games. It tends to pull in more casual players too. Though I still think your players who put 20, 30, 40 hours into these games are going to fall on the hardcore end. But what I do think was different with Cash Cleaner was I think we drew in a slightly younger crowd.
Oh, interesting. Compared to other titles that you've done?
Yeah, compared to other titles and like compared to sort of the Steam audience in general, right? Because Steam is a PC audience. It trends older. It's mostly like people my age, basically. At this point, it's always been people my age. Back in 2005,
Sure. Yeah.
or whatever, it was also people my age, and we've just kept getting older. I think because of the humor and because of the sort of like crime angle, it drew in more players or younger players, and I think we saw some of that in some of the indicators we were looking at, like the fact that the engagement on the demo was amazing, but like wish list numbers for the game were slower than I expected them to be, and I think that's a indicator of a younger group of players,
Oh,
maybe
interesting.
who have not been on the Steam platform as long, and aren't as used to reviewing games or wishlisting games,
sure.
things like that. It's not science, like we're making guesses, right? But that was a big takeaway for us, and we did make some key decisions based on that, in terms of like how we positioned it and ultimately how we priced it, because we wanted this to be a game that when you saw it in the store, you didn't need to think about it. We wanted it to be inexpensive enough that you would be like, I would love to play this over my lunch break today, or like when I get home from school today, so that people would buy it right away and then play.
Yeah.
Especially because we felt like word of mouth was going to be our best marketing tool. We need to get impulse buyers in. They will really love the game and they'll tell people about it. So, we took what information we had on age and ultimately used that to make the pricing decision.
Sure, yeah. And so, Leo, about the audience that you're making this game for, what kind of audience were you looking to grab with Cash Cleaner Simulator?
To be honest, at some point we stopped researching audience at all. Like we were making it like before that for 10 years and trying to make forecasts according to the audience, etc., etc. In I stopped belief in it. I understood that if it works, you can see it by wish list and videos, how many people watched it, etc. by TikTok. If it works, if this visual and sound and idea work, it works. If it not, it's not. Does it matter which audience? It's important for ending marketing campaign in the very end after all play tests. But when
Sure.
you
Yeah.
start this idea and how you should understand that you should put some money in this, you just talk with some people about that and put it like, not like you're selling it like completely, but saying, what about game about cleaning money? What do you think about it? And if people start thinking about it and they eyes are fire, they go, oh, you can do this and you can do that. Never mind if it's your colleagues by game industry or your friends who are not about game industry at all. If you see this reaction a lot, it means something. So you should put it
Sure.
as much
Interesting.
as much as you can. So yeah, to be honest, we didn't make this research from the very beginning, but by making this visual design,
Yeah.
it's was obvious that people who are younger will be more open-minded to take it and say, yeah, it's fine about me. So there are some games who are trying to copy some ideas of Cash Cleaner Simulator on Steam, and they tone of voice of how they speak there is very different. They try to be less spaceship, less cartoonish, and more realistic and cheaper at the same time. And I don't know if they will successfully we take a look how they perform, but for
Yeah.
now I don't feel that people liked it. Another thing, because we put a lot of money in this visual style, I would think in the very end, I would think maybe people who are waiting for GTA 6, I like it because maybe
Okay.
they
Huh.
feel like a bit at home in different part. Because GTA 5 and 6, they are more colorful in a lot of ways. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
trying to
Sure.
be this shiny mood, not like GTA 3 or GTA 4, where it was darker. So yeah, so I think it was obvious that we set up this game for younger audience who have 15 years at least.
Interesting, yeah. And we've seen this game really resonate with an audience in just a few weeks. I mean, it's less than a month since the game came out. I'm glad I'm catching you so early so we can sort of talk about it as it's sort of hitting its stride. But the game already has more than 2,000 reviews on Steam. It's got a very positive rating, and the game is successful. I've been seeing some of your team members at like the Forklift Interactive social media accounts being like, look at these reviews, look at how many copies we've sold. Like, it's been a success. And so I'm curious for both of your teams, how has that success impacted the way you're maybe thinking about future projects? Tucker, you mentioned that this being more being a sim and being more comedy oriented and having a younger skewing audience, seeing that be so successful, is that something that maybe has shifted the way you're going to look at acquiring future projects, or what kind of marketing you can do? And then, of course, we'll shift back to you, Leo, about what kind of games you might want to develop after the success of this. But first to you, Tucker.
Sure, yeah. It definitely makes me want to do more Sims. I've learned a lot about them from working with Leonid and his team. I was already a fan, but like really found the enjoyment in them. And we actually do have another one in development right now. I would love to sign more if we find the right ones. So certainly exploring the sim genre further, I think, is the big change. But then, of course, the other one is like we want to double and triple down on our long-term support for Cash Cleaner Simulator and
Oh,
Mind
okay.
Control. So
Yeah.
we have already announced console versions are in the works. No new details really yet, but that is happening, and obviously new things in the game as well. And we'll be along for that ride. With Mind Control for as long as we can keep it going.
Yeah.
As long as players are excited about it, I think we want to continue offering new and interesting stuff.
Cool. Yeah. So it sounds like some DLC and long term support is there. But Leo, how has your team taken the success of this of the game? Has it kind of changed the way you're thinking about future projects, and then of course sticking with Cash Cleaner?
Well, yeah, we were thinking about. We have a lot of games in our portfolio, kind of. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
we were thinking about something like. mm, Little company, for example. But I don't feel like it would be successful in 2 years after we started, even right now, because the Steam is full of game like this, and maybe people enjoy it. But we were thinking about different directions for future. First of all, yeah, of course we will support Cache Cleaner Simulator and put many good updates because, as I say, it's an extract of a Cache Cleaner game. So we were thinking about many small feature we cut it, and now we want to make it work, finish it.
Okay.
For example, Workbench, people don't like it a lot, but the initial idea was better, so we wanted to finish it. Yeah. What else? And after support of Cache Cleaner, we were thinking about two directions. One of the direction I was thinking about strategy genre. I have some ideas about Mafia games, 4X games, and etc. But it takes a lot of R&D to understand how to make this game. I have this
Yeah, sure.
formula in my head, but we should try. And what I did understand from making Carcel Tycoon game, that if you make a strategy game, you get your final game on a very late stage, because first of all you
Mm.
should make a lot of mechanics and make them work between each other. In a way, if you're making like a game like simulator, you'll focus on one thing. You should finish it, make it catchy, make it interesting, and you're almost done. And then it's like, but in the way of strategy games, it's a lot of systems. You put this system, character system, worldwide system, right? So it's very long story. I don't know if I can finish it because it's huge investments in this way. And the second thing we're talking me in the team for now, it's cooperation games when you can do something together, because we see that it's possible to make these games popular, and we have many things like for example, we're talking about game about mountain, when you climb together somewhere and facing with some, I don't know, strange things killing you, for example. Yeah, and talking about how to achieve this, how to take this high, and you always can say, "Well, you well done," because this time you get this high, and next time higher, and next time higher, for example. Yeah, so yeah, many ideas, and it's hard to like talk all about it. It could be podcast for 4 hours to talk about all games we're thinking about now.
Yeah, very cool. And I love the experimentation you guys are willing to do with your genres. As we wrap up here, the last thing I want to ask is, what do you think you learned the most while working on Cash Cleaner Simulator? Whether that's the development, the marketing, the reception of it. What's the biggest takeaway that you have from this that like adds to your mental bank of like, this is what we can do in the future?
Well, I learned to believe my team more, and not to be very accurate about everything in the game. The game could
Sure.
be very fun, even it's buggish and strange. But the fun is the most important thing because people share it between each other and tell you about it. This first time when we made the game, my friends are playing and giving me feedback a lot.
That's a good answer. I'll second that because Rita was a really strong vision holder for this project, and as a publisher, we try not to like get in the weeds of game design. We want the people holding that vision to do it, but we always make suggestions, and we made multiple suggestions that Rita did not like, and she was right every time, every single time.
Yes, yes.
So she's a very good designer, and she really knew what she was doing. I think the other thing that I learned was just not to read too much into any like single piece of feedback from our marketing efforts, and to like continually try new things. So when we saw that we weren't getting traction, say with like paid ads, we would try some new stuff, optimizing as much as we could, maybe shifting money into other categories. But like, we basically kept searching for like the right avenue to find players. And I think if we had gone with a kind of formulaic, like this is the way we do things approach, the game probably would have still been successful, but the marketing efforts maybe would not have been. We try to be super reactive at Forklift, where when we see that this isn't working or that isn't working, we change it up and iterate and optimize. And ultimately, like, that's what led us to finding like a good tone for the trailers and realizing that we needed to go after this slightly younger audience. And I don't think we would have gotten there, without having to really iterate through a series of not failures, but like the need for improvements as we went through the campaign.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I want to thank you both for sitting down, talking to me about Cash Cleaner Simulator. If you're a fan of the game, hope you learned something here. And of course, if you're listening to this and haven't played the game, I will leave a link to the Steam page down in the description. I guess once console versions come out at some point in the future, I can retroactively add those to the description as well. So it depends on when you're watching this. But thank you both very much for joining me. I hope you had a good time. And to everyone watching, I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Tucker. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, Tucker.